This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Tuesday, September 9th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
House Oversight Committee Democrats have released a sexually suggestive letter purportedly signed by Donald Trump. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Video made public in the brutal killing of a Ukrainian woman in North Carolina.
Viciously stabbed. She's just sitting there.
I'm Clayton Neville.
Postal traffic into the U.S. plunged by more than 80%. I'm Julie Walker.
On Wall Street, stocks are coming off some modest gains yesterday as investors wait for new inflation numbers. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
Authorities have identified a girl found dead in a New Hampshire state park nearly 25 years ago. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Appeals court rules Trump must pay E. Jean Carroll multi-millions. All ahead on America in the Morning. The White House is issuing new denials after Democrats on the House Oversight Committee released what they allege is a birthday greeting they claim was penned by Donald Trump to accused sex offender Jeffrey Epstein in 2003. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports this is the same greeting card released by the Wall Street Journal 2 months ago that led to the president filing a $10 billion lawsuit against the News Corp-owned newspaper.
House Oversight Committee Democrats have released a sexually suggestive letter to Jeffrey Epstein, purportedly signed by Donald Trump.
This is not a hoax. This is real. There are real survivors. There are real victims to this criminal enterprise. And the perpetrators are being protected because they're rich and powerful and political donors to the establishment here in Washington, D.C.
It was part of a 2003 album compiled for the alleged sex trafficker's birthday. The letter Democrats released looks exactly as described in a Wall Street Journal report that the president dismissed as defamatory and sued the paper for $10 billion. It includes the words, "Happy Birthday," and "May every day be another wonderful secret."
This is a Democrat hoax that never ends. You know, it reminds me a little of the Kennedy situation. We gave him everything over and over again, more and more and more, and nobody's ever satisfied.
For weeks, the president's denied writing it.
Somebody could have written a letter and used my name, but that's happened a lot.
And says he did not create the drawing of a curvaceous woman surrounding the letter.
I don't do drawings, but I'm not a drawing person. I don't do drawings of women, that I can tell you. They say there's a drawing of a woman, and I don't do drawings of women.
Democrats say they got a copy of the album as part of documents from Epstein's estate. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Republicans on the Oversight Committee released files related to Epstein, including a message from former President Bill Clinton in the late pedophile's birthday book. Outrage after a video surveillance is released in the deadly stabbing of a Ukrainian woman on a Charlotte, North Carolina light rail train. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports the murder by a man with previous multiple arrests has set off a firestorm of criticism over perceived failures in the justice system.
23-year-old Irina Zarutska came to the United States for a better life in 2022 after Russia invaded Ukraine. She was stabbed to death the night of August 22nd while riding the Lynx Blue Line in Charlotte. The brutal killing was caught on surveillance video and is hard to watch. The suspect sat behind the woman on the train for several minutes before standing up and repeatedly stabbing her. Some local media outlets held off on showing the footage because of its graphic nature. President Trump reacted to the murder and called the alleged killer a madman.
Lunatic just got up and started. It's right on the tape. Not really watchable because it's so horrible, but just viciously stabbed. She's just sitting there.
He said there are evil people in our country.
We have to be able to handle that. If we don't handle that, we don't have a country.
34-year-old DeCarlos Brown Jr. was arrested when he got off the train. He's charged with murder and has a lengthy rap sheet to include larceny and breaking and entering charges. He also spent 5 years behind bars for robbery with a dangerous weapon back in 2015. Residents concerned and calling for more security on public transit.
This is something that I think a lot of people who have been invested are need to take our public transportation system probably have seen coming for quite some time.
This frequent writer spoke with WBTV in Charlotte.
This is why we have elected representatives. So I would encourage them to get out in front and again, really make a comprehensive investment in our public transportation system when it comes to safety and security.
Local officials promising to boost security on trains, and North Carolina Governor Josh Stein said this week that he was appalled by the murder. I'm Clayton Neville.
President Trump's would-be assassin on trial. That and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. America in the Morning continues. Here's the forecast from AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Once again, heavy rain fell across Florida as tropical moisture continued to form thunderstorms along a nearly stationary front of the region. We'll see thunderstorms again producing heavier rain across the Sunshine State, with the strongest of these in the central and southern areas this afternoon. Some localized flash flooding will be possible. Though not as strong, there'll be thunderstorms farther to the north in northern Florida into southern Georgia and along the Gulf Coast westward to Louisiana. Severe thunderstorms will once again be a concern across the western plains states from North Texas into the Oklahoma Panhandle, northward to southwest Nebraska. These storms will develop late this afternoon and can produce damaging winds as well as small hail and heavy rain. Farther north, there'll be a cold front dipping in from Canada into Minnesota and then eastward to northern Wisconsin and northern Michigan. Some showers and thunderstorms will be moving along it. And there'll be a thunderstorm or two to start the day in parts of eastern Nebraska into Iowa and northern Missouri, but much of the day will end up being dry. In fact, the rest of the plains into the southeast, Tennessee Valley, Middle Atlantic, and northward through the eastern Great Lakes and northeast will have high pressure providing influence over the area. This is going to lead to plenty of sunshine for most locations, with just a few more clouds near the coast of North Carolina into Virginia with a system just offshore. Highs this afternoon will be mostly in the 70s and 80s, with just a few 60s in northern New York into northern Maine. The Northwest will also have a storm moving through today and tonight with some showers and thunderstorms from Northern California into Oregon and Washington. That's the weather across America. Lubbock, Texas will be very warm today with clouds and some sun. We'll have a thunderstorm in the afternoon with a high of 94. Columbus, Ohio will have plenty of sunshine and a comfortably warm afternoon with a high around 80. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. A trial is underway in Florida for the man who hid with a gun at President Trump's golf course in an alleged second assassination attempt. Correspondent Hayapan Jwani reports that Ryan Routh will be acting as his own attorney.
Ryan Routh was charged with attempting to assassinate Donald Trump last year at a golf course in South Florida. A district judge approved Routh's request to represent himself, but insisted on standby counsel. Jury selection started with 30 batches of 60 jurors arriving at a federal courtroom in Fort Pierce. Routh wanted to ask potential jurors about their views on the war in Gaza and the talk of the U.S. acquiring Greenland. But the judge said those questions were irrelevant. Routh pleaded not guilty to charges of attempting to assassinate a major presidential candidate, assaulting a federal officer, and several firearm violations. I'm Hayapan Jwani.
The U.S. Supreme Court cleared the way for the Trump administration to continue carrying out immigration raids in California after advocacy groups argued that federal authorities were stopping suspected illegal immigrants without a valid reason. The justices heard the case after a federal judge in July blocked Immigration and Customs Enforcement from conducting raids in Los Angeles County, finding the plaintiffs likely would succeed in their argument that the raids violated the Fourth Amendment, a decision upheld in an appeals court. Attorney General Pam Bondi said in a statement, ICE would now be able to continue without judicial micromanagement. America in the Morning continues. Tariffs are not just impacting nations and shippers at U.S. ports. Correspondent Julie Walker reports postal traffic to the U.S. is down substantially after the Trump administration extended an exemption on low-value parcels.
The United Nations Postal Agency says postal traffic into the U.S. plunged by more than 80% after a Trump administration move to end a tariff exemption for low-cost imports. The Universal Postal Union says it has started rolling out new measures that can help postal operators around the world calculate and collect duties. On August 29th, the U.S. eliminated an exemption that had allowed U.S.-bound parcels valued at $800 or less to avoid customs charges. The UPU says 88 national postal operators have suspended some or all postal services to the U.S. as a result. I'm Julie Walker.
Unveiling of the new iPhone. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. Yesterday's action on Wall Street and more in your Tuesday Business Report. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after modest gains for stocks yesterday. The Nasdaq touched a new intraday record high, and then it pulled back. Investors are waiting for the latest on inflation coming tomorrow. And then the biggie is Thursday, the CPI, Consumer Price Index. A weakening job market has been on a lot of Americans' minds, and their confidence in finding a job has hit a record low in the new New York Fed survey.
New York Fed saying that probability of finding a job fell to the lowest level of the series, and that's since 2013, and that's almost 6% down. The probability of losing a job rising to 14.5%.
CNBC senior economics reporter Steve Leisman. Apple's biggest event of the year is today. New iPhones are expected, but iPhone fans may want to wait another year or two.
The first major new iPhone design since 2020. This is a super thin model the internet has started calling the iPhone Air. We'll see what it's actually called at the event. We're expecting a foldable iPhone in 2026 and a radical new design in 2027 for the iPhone's 20th anniversary. As for artificial intelligence, not really expecting much on that front. The real AI update is coming next year when Apple says it's going to ship the AI update to Siri. It had to delay this year.
CNBC's Steve Kovac. Tesla's market share in the U.S. has dropped to its lowest in 8 years as a percentage of electric vehicles, according to Cox Automotive Group.
All the other automakers that sell EVs, they're all picking up a little bit of share at the expense of Tesla. But whether it's General Motors, and it's now number 2 in the U.S., or Hyundai, or Volkswagen, or Ford, and the foreign automakers from Europe are also selling EVs here, BMW, Mercedes, they're all picking up market share. And most of that, guys, is coming from the fact that as the EV tax credit is expiring, there are some incredible deals out there.
CNBC's Phil LeBeau. Google's YouTube celebrating its first NFL game.
YouTube's first exclusive NFL game was Friday. It was in Brazil between the Kansas City Chiefs and the LA Chargers, and it brought in 17.3 million viewers, about 16 million of them in the U.S. So are those ratings a win for YouTube? Well, viewership is down from the 28.3 million viewers who watched the season opener game the prior day on NBC and Peacock, and down from Netflix's Christmas Day games, which averaged 24 million viewers. But viewership was roughly in line with ESPN's average Monday night football games.
CNBC's Julia Borston. On today's watch list, earnings are coming from Oracle and meme darling GameStop. Forbes publishes its Forbes 400 list of the richest Americans.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, breakthrough in a decades-old murder cold case after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. A federal appeals court upholds a civil court finding that President Trump must pay over $83 million to E. Jean Carroll for his repeated social media postings and public statements against the woman who accused him of sexual assault. The Second Circuit Court of Appeals rejected Trump's argument that the defamation award was unfounded, calling the jury's judgment fair and reasonable. The president's legal team had argued the damages were unreasonably excessive, and the case is likely now going to be appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. Shifting gears, cold case no longer, as police in New Hampshire make a breakthrough in a 40-year-old murder mystery. Correspondent Lisa Dwyer reports.
Authorities have identified a girl found dead in a New Hampshire state park nearly 25 years ago, based on new DNA and genealogical research. The case began in 1985 when 2 bodies were found in barrels at Bear Brook State Park. 2 more were found in 2000. By 2019, all of the victims have been identified except for 1. Recent DNA analysis has identified that victim as Rhea Rasmussen. Her father, Terry Rasmussen, was the killer. He died in prison in 2010. Authorities are now urging the public to come forward with any information about the girl's mother, Pepper Reed, who has not been seen since the 1970s in California. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
High school senior scores on major math and reading tests fell to their lowest levels on record, according to results released Tuesday by the U.S. Education Department. The report found that 12th graders' average math score was the worst since the current test began in 2005, and reading below any point since that assessment started in 1992. Girls' scores on average dropped faster than boys in the same grades. The report also found that scores fell on newly released 8th grade science tests. America in the Morning for Tuesday, September 9th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
A new immigration operation by the Trump administration has officials in Chicago confused and worried. I'm John Stolness in Washington.
The fight over President Trump's nominations heats up. I'm Sue Aller.
The Attorney General in New York interfering in a case surrounding Texas, telemedicine, and abortion. I'm Clayton Neville.
Your IT job may be safe from AI, at least for now. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
What are some of the movies from the big fall film festivals to keep an eye on? I'm Kevin Carr.
Pentagon brass head to Puerto Rico, Robert Workman sports, and a recap of TV's VMAs. Back after these messages. Potential severe weather today for some. Welcome back to America in the Morning. Here's the forecast with AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Severe thunderstorms will be a concern in portions of the western plains from northern Texas into the Oklahoma Panhandle, northward to southwest Nebraska. These storms will develop late this afternoon and could produce some damaging wind as well as small hail and heavy rain. Farther north, there'll be a cold front dipping in from Canada into Minnesota and then eastward to northern Wisconsin and northern Michigan. There'll be some showers and thunderstorms along that boundary. And there'll be a thunderstorm or two to start the day in parts of eastern Nebraska into Iowa and northern Missouri, but much of the day is going to end up being dry. Also look for thunderstorms producing heavier rain across Florida again today as tropical moisture interacts with a nearly stationary front. The strongest of these will be in central and southern parts of the state during the afternoon, and they could cause some localized flash flooding. Though not as strong, there'll be some thunderstorms farther north in northern Florida into southern Georgia and along the Gulf Coast westward to Louisiana. The rest of the plain states into the southeast, Tennessee Valley, Middle Atlantic, and northward through the eastern Great Lakes and northeast will have high pressure providing influence over the area. This is going to lead to plenty of sunshine for most locations, with just a few more clouds on the coast of North Carolina into Virginia as the system remains nearly stationary just offshore. Highs this afternoon will be mostly in the 70s and 80s, with just a few 60s in northern New York into northern Maine. The northwest will have a storm system moving through the area today into tonight. This will lead to a few showers and thunderstorms from northern California into Oregon and Washington, and then expanding eastward into Idaho. A few storms could bring drenching rain. There'll also be a few scattered afternoon thunderstorms through parts of Colorado into Wyoming, mostly in the higher elevations. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
You can follow us wherever you get your podcasts when you search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. The Department of Homeland Security has announced a new wave of immigration operations that will begin soon in Chicago. John Stolnis has details from Washington and Windy City Reaction.
Called Operation Midway Blitz, the DHS announced the move on social media while circulating the mugshots of 11 people born outside the U.S. who they say should be deported. In a statement, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, who has engaged in a war of words with the president over his desire to send troops to quell violent crime in Chicago, said the ICE operation, quote, isn't about fighting crime. That requires support and coordination. Pritzker also said, quote, instead of taking steps to work with us on public safety, the Trump administration is focused on scaring Illinoisans. President Trump has been threatening to send the National Guard to the Windy City to help combat violent crime, and said in a speech at the Museum of the Bible on Monday,
You try and reason with people like in Chicago with the governor and the mayor. You try and reason with them, and it's like you're talking to a wall. It's just doesn't. I assume it's just a political ideology. They're not stupid people.
Protesters in the city have taken to the streets over the last 2 weeks over their fears that an authoritarian takeover of the city by the federal government is coming.
Donald Trump thinks he has a hammer in his hand, but he's about to find out that Chicago is an anvil.
Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett criticizes Trump's move as being hypocritical to what Republicans have traditionally stood for.
It is so rich that the Republicans believe in small government, and this is the biggest government that I've ever seen. Because they have decided that now they are going to somehow be the local police that is going to solve local crime as the federal level. That is not what we're supposed to do.
Protests also took place in Washington, D.C. over the last few days, where National Guard troops are already on the ground. The president said crime has never been lower since he took over the city's security.
D.C. is right now so safe you can go out. Friends of mine called, one in particular, he's been in D.C. for a long time, and he said, I haven't gone out in 4 years for dinner with my wife. The restaurants were all closing because people were afraid, even if they were in the restaurant, it didn't matter, they were held up. You know, guys would walk in with guns into a restaurant, and that's over.
John Stolnis, Washington.
In the worst terror attack in Jerusalem in over 2 years, 2 Palestinians opened fire at a residential bus stop, killing 6 people and injuring at least 20 others. As correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports, the terrorist action comes as the U.S. floats a new ceasefire deal, one which Israel accepted but Hamas has not agreed to, and Israel's military continues its fight in Gaza City.
I think we're going to have a deal on Gaza very soon. It's a hell of a problem. Again, it's a problem we want to solve for the Middle East, for Israel, for everybody. But it's a problem we're going to get done.
Officials say the attackers, who were Palestinian, opened fire on people at a bus stop during the morning rush hour in Jerusalem, killing 6 people and wounding around 12 more. An Israeli soldier and civilians who were at the scene shot and killed the 2 attackers, say police, who later arrested a 3rd person in connection with the shooting. Footage of the attack showed dozens of people fleeing from the bus stop at a busy intersection. The windshield of a bus was riddled with bullet holes and belongings were scattered across the street. The war in Gaza has sparked a surge of violence in both the Israeli-occupied West Bank and in Israel.
The war in Gaza, my friend, can end tomorrow. President Trump said it clearly. Israel said yes to his proposal. We are ready to accept a full deal that would end the war based on the cabinet decision.
Israel struck and destroyed another multi-floor building in Gaza City after warning residents to evacuate, part of an offensive aimed at taking over the largest Palestinian city. The military says it was targeting Hamas observation posts and bombs placed around the 12-story office building. Over the past few days, Israel has destroyed multiple high-rise buildings in Gaza City, accusing Hamas of putting surveillance infrastructure in them. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump says he's giving his last warning to Hamas regarding a possible ceasefire, as Arab officials describe a new US proposal for the immediate release of all remaining hostages in exchange for 3,000 Palestinians and a temporary ceasefire. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
Republican senators are considering a rule change in an effort to break the stalemate in Congress and get nominees of President Trump confirmed. Sue Aller reports the GOP's plan is to streamline the process despite Democrat objections.
Senate leadership is planning a major rule change to speed up confirmations of President Trump's nominees. Many of these appointments have been stuck in limbo, leaving key government positions vacant. Senate Majority Leader John Thune says Republicans are ready to change the chamber's rules to speed up the process.
This business model doesn't work. This president was duly elected by the American people, and they expect him to be able to put his team in place.
The proposal would allow groups of lower-level nominees to be voted on more quickly, though high-profile positions like cabinet posts would still require a longer debate. Procedural votes could start as early as Thursday, with the process continuing into next week. Democrats, led by Chuck Schumer, argue the delays are necessary to scrutinize.
Historically bad nominees deserve historic levels of scrutiny.
Both parties have escalated nomination battles in recent years, gradually changing rules to limit bipartisan input.
Expect us to move forward with a plan that would enable us to clear the backlog of nominees. It just flat has to happen.
If the GOP acts swiftly, more than 100 of President Trump's pending nominations could be confirmed this month. I'm Sue Aller.
Among the stories we're covering next on America in the Morning, detained car plant workers say they were here legally. After these messages. New questions being raised following the immigration raid at a car plant in Georgia. Correspondent Lisa Dwyer reports an attorney for several recently detained South Korean nationals says those workers were in the U.S. legally.
We're encouraging all companies who want to come to the United States and help us our economy and employ people, that we encourage them to employ U.S. citizens and to bring people to our country that want to follow our laws and work here the right way.
A lawyer for several workers detained at a Hyundai factory in Georgia say many of the South Koreans rounded up in the immigration raid are engineers and equipment installers brought in for the highly specialized work of getting an electric battery plant online, saying that many were doing the work that is authorized under the B-1 Business Visitor Visa program. While it's not unusual for foreign countries to send in their own workers to set up factories and then train locally, a Savannah labor union leader says local unions have complained that Hyundai and its contractors were improperly using South Korean workers for basic construction that falls outside the visa waiver rules. President Donald Trump says the workers were here illegally and that the U.S. needs to arrange with other countries to have their experts train U.S. citizens to do specialized work such as battery and computer manufacturing. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
New York's Attorney General is intervening in a Texas-filed lawsuit surrounding abortion laws and telemedicine. Correspondent Clayton Neville explains.
The battle between New York Attorney General Letitia James and Texas AG Ken Paxton surrounds shield laws in pro-abortion states, which protect patients and providers from judgments reached in anti-abortion states. The battle comes as the conversation over abortion pills and telemedicine are front and center in America. Drugs like mifepristone brought up in a recent hearing with HHS Secretary RFK Jr., Senator Steve Daines.
Just last year, 2 women died as a result of taking chemical abortion pills because they were able to access them without appropriate medical oversight.
This week, James announced she's invoking a statutory right to interfere with a Texas-filed lawsuit against a New York County clerk who allegedly refused to file a court summons for a New York doctor accused of sending abortion medicine last year to a female patient in Texas. The clerk apparently twice refused to enforce Paxton's lawsuit, citing New York's telemedicine abortion shield law. The case involved New York doctor Margaret Carpenter, who was ordered to pay $113,000 in legal penalties. Paxton says he'll do whatever it takes to defend pro-life laws in his state. I'm Clayton Neville.
The United States continues to ramp up its presence in the Caribbean as top members of the Pentagon are in Puerto Rico, a staging area for America's military. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports.
The Pentagon's top leaders are visiting Puerto Rico as the U.S. ramps up military operations against Caribbean drug cartels. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Joint Chiefs Chairman Dan Kane arrived on the island more than a week after hundreds of Marines deployed there for a training exercise. A person familiar with the planning says the U.S. will soon send 10 F-35 fighters to the territory for operations against cartels. Dozens of people protested at a National Guard base yesterday against a boosted American military presence in Puerto Rico, warning against using it as a staging ground for potential operations. The island's governor, though, says Puerto Rico represents a U.S. border in the region. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The Gartner Group has released a report on how IT jobs might fare in a future ruled by AI. Chuck Palm has details in today's Tech Report.
According to tech analyst firm Gartner, they're predicting that all IT work will involve AI by 2030, with 75% of the tasks being augmented by human AI teamwork. According to Alicia Mullery, VP at Gartner, speaking at their symposium in Australia, she says 81% of IT work today is human only, but that is flipping fast. AI is boosting efficiency and letting senior staff tackle tasks that once were delegated to juniors. Contrary-wise, Gartner's Daryl Plummer insists that there won't be an AI jobs bloodbath for at least the next 5 years, with only 1% of current job losses tied to upcoming AI. This report highlights the AI double-edged sword. It supercharges IT productivity, but it demands constant retraining and investment. Businesses must prove that their expanded capacity adds value or risk appearing to be overstaffed. Find me on X at Chuck Palm.
America in the Morning continues. With sports, here's Robert Workman.
The first week of the NFL season is in the books. Last night, the Vikings rallied past the Bears 27-24 on Monday Night Football. Chicago took an 11-point lead into the fourth quarter, but J.J. McCarthy threw for 2 Minnesota touchdowns and ran for the clincher.
Watching a lot of film, learning the playbook and trying to master that. But at the end of the day, it's such a blessing to be an NFL football player and, play in this league.
Week 2 kicks off at Lambeau Field on Thursday as the Packers host the Commanders. Baseball last night, 2 more near no-hitters. Slade Ciccone took his bid into the 8th as the Guardians romped past the Royals 10-2. Michael Massey broke it up with a leadoff single. The Dodgers held the Rockies hitless into the 9th in their 3-1 win. Tyler Glasnow struck out 11 in 7 no-hit innings. Ryan Ritter doubled to start the 9th. No cigar so far. The last no-hitter in the majors was last September, and we haven't gone an entire season without a no-no since 2005. There were 3 shutouts last night. Garrett Crochet and the Yarnbirds allowed just 3 hits as the Red Sox ripped the A's 7-0. Philly shut out the Mets 1-0. Aaron Nola and the Big Easy scattered 5 hits.
I feel like it's been a while, for sure. It's a good win. Good all-around team win. Those guys are good over there. It's good to get the first one of the series over here.
And the Rangers blanked the Brewers 5-0 behind the 6-hit stylings of Jacob Latz in the slats. Michael Hellman's 5th-inning grand slam was the big blow. Giants belted 5 dingers in an 11-5 drubbing of the Diamondbacks. Nationals mashed the Marlins 15-7. Josh Bell with 2 of DC's 4 home runs, 1 from each side of the plate. He drove in 6. Twins trampled the Angels 12-4. Royce Lewis with a pair of 2-run shots. Braves down the Cubs 4-1. Mariners came back to clip the Cardinals 4-2. And the Padres shaded the Reds 4-3 in 10 innings. That's Tuesday Sports.
When we return on America in the Morning, this is your father's MTV Awards. After these messages. Familiar artists dominated at this year's MTV Video Music Awards. Correspondent Jennifer King has a recap.
Welcome to the 2020. LL Cool J hosted the MTV Video Music Awards Sunday night, with Doja Cat kicking off an energetic show at the USB Arena. Lady Gaga, the night's top nominee, won Artist of the Year. She talked about the responsibilities of being an artist and thanked her fiancé before hitting the stage at Madison Square Garden.
Being an artist is an attempt to connect the souls of people all over the world.
Ariana Grande won Video of the Year and Best Pop. Grande presented Mariah Carey with the Video Vanguard Award, describing her as the queen of vocalists and the soundtrack of our lives.
I can't believe I'm getting my first VMA tonight. I just have one question. What in the Sam Hill were you waiting for?
The show featured tributes to the late Ozzy Osbourne, and Busta Rhymes received the Rock the Bells Visionary Award.
The blessings don't stop, so we don't stop, baby!
Ricky Martin was celebrated with the first ever Latin Icon Award, 25 years after his VMA breakout.
I want to dedicate this award to my kids.
Audio courtesy CBS and MTV. I'm Jennifer King.
There were also some big winners at the recent fall film festivals, but will that success turn into a blockbuster in theaters? Entertainment reporter Kevin Carr answers that question.
The Venice International Film Festival just wrapped up, and the Toronto International Film Festival is underway. Here are some releases to keep your eye on this awards season.
Do you hate each other when you fight?
Absolutely not.
Benny Safdie's The Smashing Machine stars Dwayne Johnson in a possible career turning point, playing MMA fighter Mark Kerr. It premiered in Venice and will smash theaters on October 3rd.
There is no hint that help will come from elsewhere.
Oscar winner Catherine Bigelow's nuclear strike political thriller A House of Dynamite premiered in Venice and was nominated for the Golden Lion. It hits theaters on October 10th and Netflix on the 24th.
Where's my hair? Your hair has been destroyed to prevent you from contacting your ship.
Yorgos Lanthimos reunites with Poor Things star Emma Stone in Begonia, an absurdist comedy about two conspiracy nuts who kidnap a CEO convinced she's an alien. It had its world premiere in Venice and hits theaters on October 24th.
The Impossible Crime. This is the Holy Grail.
Rian Johnson directs another Knives Out movie, starring Daniel Craig as Detective Benoit Blanc in Wake Up Dead Man. The film premiered in Toronto and will hit theaters on November 26th and Netflix on December 12th.
You've always been my favorite son. Well, you're only son.
Finally, Jim Jarmusch won the Golden Lion in Venice for Father, Mother, Sister, Brother, hitting theaters on Christmas Eve. I'm Kevin Carr.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, September 9th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.